What's up, motherfuckers? The World Cup is close to the end, and Sindarov is so close to qualify to the candidates. He only needs to go advance one more round and later won another match because he is now in quarterfinals after beat Frederick Spain in the round 5. So let's analyze the game who helped him to advance to the next round. Okay, Sindarov opened with e4, e5 by Spain. He was the only who win in the first day of the 5 round. The rest of games ending a draw. Okay, knight f3, knight c6. The majority of top players against c5 now are choosing the Italian instead of the Spanish. Knight f6, and now he decided to go for more quietly line with d3, bishop c5, c3. The other day, Frederick played a5 against Duques, but today he select a line without a5 and allowed before. So castle d6. So the move that I recommend here is a5, stopping before. That's my favorite move against the Italian. Always try to take as much space as possible. But okay, he played sword castle and d6, who are completely normal moves. Before bishop b6, a4, and now important move a5 here. Because okay, a6 could be possible, but you allow white to take more space in the queen side, and all the time white is going to have a slightly exposure advantage in the queen side, so I not recommend to just to allow white to take more space in the queen side. So very good move a5. The idea is after b5 now go with the knight to g6 with 97 and knight g6 in the next move, knight b2, knight g6, and now the the black knight control f4, and one day the other knight can go to f4, and black have many ideas of this time. Or you can go to f4 with the g4 g6 knights, of course. And g6, sorry, c6 followed by d5 could be a possible plan. But Sindarov decided to break directly the center with d4. And now very good move, pinning the knight and developing the only piece who remains to develop with bishop d4. Just the idea is pin the knight, so logical move. Queen c2, leaving the pin, and now queen d7 to connect the rooks. Rook e1 and now rook a8. Both players are playing so good for this moment. And now Sindarov developed the bishop to a3. Bishop b2 was another possibility, but the game could continue more or less similar, but with the bishop on b2 instead of on e3. For example, knight f4 is so typical in the Italian when the bishop leaves the c1 h6 diagonal to cover the f4 square with the knight. It's so typical. When white play bishop f4, now we are going to land on f4 with the knight. Bishop f1, and now we can trade, queen e4, king h1, queen h5, for example, and now g5 to attack in the king side. So, but okay, Sindarov developed the bishop to e3, which would find yes, looks maybe a little bit more logical, because on b2 looks like it's so close, because okay, this diagonal is full of pieces. But on a3 looks more natural, because the rook could be hanging on f8 one day and trap on e8, on f8, sorry, after some takes e5 and step of lines. So now very good move of Spain. Knight f4, like I told, if your opponent uh, play bishop b2 or bishop a3, leaving the c1 h6 diagonal, you should land the knight on f4, bishop f1, bishop f3, knight f3, queen g4. Until here, both players are playing perfectly. King h1 by Sindarov, very good move. And now Frederick make a bad move. He played knight h3 to have no so much sense. And he made that to trade the knights, but the knight on f4 looks like it's a very good knight. So I don't think that it will have so much sense. And the problem, because Spain play knight h3 followed by knight g5. Okay, you are trading the knight, and it's true that now that the d4 pawn is weaker, but the problem is that white is winning many tempos with this black maneuver. Let's see that with this white maneuver, sorry, to trade black knights, so to trade both knights, sorry. Uh, During this period, white developed the rook to, okay, not develop, but white improved the rook to e3. He came with the other rook to d1, and he played h3. So black give like 3 tempos for free for white, only to trade knights, who is not clear who is in black benefit. Of course, the d4 pawn is a little bit under pressure, but white can hold everything. So that's why here I prefer another move like queen g6 or queen h5. For example, queen h5, and the idea now is going to play g5, g4, and attacking the king side. Rook d1, put pressure into the d4 pawn, g5, bishop c1. It's so typical when white plays bishop b2 or bishop b3 and the knight lands on f4. Some moves later, the bishop finally comes to c1 to attack the knight, especially after develop the rook to d1. King h1, now knight g1, it takes f3. The line that I'm going to show is so difficult, of course. Bishop takes, and now knight d7, for example, coming to with knight d5, knight d2, knight takes, on f5. The other idea of course, of knight d7 is I can push f5, knight d2, take f5, knight g3, queen h4, rook d1, f4, knight d2, knight d5, so and the game is more or less equal. And here queen g6 is another option, but okay, I prefer queen h5 a little bit. Queen g6, and if g3 now, queen h5, bishop d2, now we take, and okay, black take back the bishop pair, and looks like the position is more or less equal now. White having the light square bishop, so we are going to break on f5, open the both rooks, take, and okay, the position is more or less equal. But okay, I don't like knight h3 because you give many tempos for white, and the only thing that you do was just trade knights. So now white is better. Let's understand why. Here I think that white is better because he have the bishop pair, and he have just a good central pawns. He have more space in the center, especially the d4 and the a4 pawns, and the bishop pair. I think that they give white the advantage here, and black have no counterplay for that. In the yes here yes he have okay of course here we have the same we have the bishop pair and two central pawns, but black have good counterplay thanks to the very good knight on f4 and that g5 g4 is coming, but here he have no counterplay. Queen g6, bishop d3, no knight h5, he tries to game again with the other knight to f4, but now white is not going to allow that, playing d3, very good move. Rook e7, here okay, rook f3 was stronger, but he played bishop b2. He finally understand that the bishop is a little bit misplaced on e3, and he finally understand that the bishop could be slightly better on b2. Rook rook f8, sorry, doubling rooks into the e5, and white made the same, doubling rooks into the e5. Apart, the bishop on b2 is defending the d4 pawn. That's the principal idea of play bishop b2. Queen f6, now king g2, improving the king, very good move. Queen e6, yes, let's see that Spain have no clear plan to improve here. Okay, black position is more or less solid, but the problem for black is that he haven't any plans to improve the position. Rook f3. Okay, he improved the knight. For that reason, he played finally queen f6 just to cancel with the knight to f6. Or he first played queen f6. I don't. Yes, maybe he was thinking about ideas of take on e4. Maybe he had this idea. I don't know what was his idea, but okay, for example, here you can take. Yes, I don't know. I think that just queen e6 looks necessary to game with the knight to f6, I think. For example, I don't remember why black cannot take on d4. I'm going to show it again. Here, okay, yes, white have the idea of rook f3. I completely forget. Yes, yes, or she takes, bishop takes, and rook f3. That's the white idea. So for that reason is that king d2 is a very strong move because again now black is threatening to take on d4. So we play king d2 to can have the rook f3 idea to deactivate the queen. So very good move this king g2 by Sindarov. Queen e6, rook f3, knight f6, and he finally take on e5. And now Spain decides to yeah to sacrifice the pawn. He takes e5 looks like it's not my favorite move. For example, bishop a3 here looks stronger rook d7. But the problem is that the queen on e6 is more or less trapped. For example, now queen e2 followed by bishop c4, and looks like black is close to lose because just he have no square for his pieces. Or queen e2 DLD is another option, followed by bishop c4 and bishop a3. This could be an idea. Or the problem is that there are many ideas for black, but for white, sorry. So he decided to sacrifice a pawn, trying to activate the pieces a little bit, but this doesn't work. He just take and rook f4, defending the e4 pawn. because now black is coming with knight c5 and attacking e4, so rook f4 defending, and of course he can king with 95. Here is the threat to take the attack the rook and attack the bishop, so rook f4 prophylaxis against both moves, 95 and rook d1, rook d7, rook e2. Now, yes, the rest is more or less easy because you have the bishop pair and extra pawn. So, okay, h4 here was stronger, but bishop c1, yeah, that's fine. 96, rook f5. Okay, finally, he's been managed to take back the pawn because he have some counter because the pawn is a little bit weak. So he finally managed to take back the pawn, but white still having the bishop pair, so white have the advantage, of course. Rook d5, h6, takes. Now bishop e4. Now he plays 5, for that reason the tempo of play rook e5 and later take doesn't matter so much because black doesn't want to have the pawn on e6, black want to have the pawn on e5. Here was stronger to play bishop d2 because Sindarov play f3, but bishop d2 was stronger. If knight d7, bishop here, if knight c5, now bishop f3. He should take, of course, but okay, now we take the h5 pawn and we have an extra pawn with weight. And if g6, we just can defend the pawn on e4. So bishop d2 was so interesting. Instead of that, he played f3, g6, king f1, improving the king a little bit. Knight d7, g4. Here it was stronger, knight c5 and f5, fighting for the space and especially trading as much pawns as possible. That's the best way to play with black, just try to trade pawns. Okay, knight f6, bishop b7, h takes, bishop g5, knight d7, and now f takes. Now white have a pawn, but the a4 pawn is going to fall after knight c5, bishop c6, knight a4. But okay, so in this position, white is still having advantage, but it's not so easy to win the game. Bishop c5, king e2, knight b6, king d3, a4, c4. Good idea. Open this long diagonal for the bishop to defend the pawn. a3, king c3. And here, Svein makes his decisive mistake with bishop f8. The problem of that move, sorry, is that, okay, his idea, of course, is play bishop d7 and trade the white bishop pair. The problem is that after king b3, bishop here, and bishop d8, and black is in some troubles here, especially after bishop here and c5. The knight a4, black is still fighting, but bishop e7 was the decisive last good move, and later king e3 is coming. So here let's see another ways to play with black. For example, king e7 was interesting. I analyzing this a little bit. King b3, a2, bishop e8, king g8, bishop c6, king e7, and now he should trade another thing. For example, bishop e5, bishop d6, bishop d4, bishop c5, and I all the time I'm going to just follow your bishop. So of course you cannot trade because I'm winning. So this could be interesting to play like a. The idea of king e7 is just not make nothing, just play a quiet move and wait. But white want to, because like looks like white have all his pieces perfectly placed. Or for example, here he can try bishop f3 too, but here the same idea of follow the bishop. Well, a2 here was logical, of course. King b3 attacking the pawn and covering a1 with the bishop. So bishop e7, the same idea like we just follow the bishop. And here, okay, we're just going to take the pawn, but okay, white is putting pressure, of course. But yes, bishop f8 just lost the pawn, the a3 pawn for nothing, and this is going to be extra pawn for white, and white is completely winning. So now he creates a pass pawn on c3, and now he controls the knight, and after take and bishop d6, Sindarov wins, and he advanced to the next round of the World Cup. Now he's in quarterfinals, so let's see if he is still advancing rounds. Bye bye, motherfuckers.